I think that Robert Whittaker is going to school Dricus Du Plessis this weekend at UFC 290, and then Sean Strickland is going to swoop in and take his title shot against Israel Adesanya at UFC 293, and I'm going to tell you why at the end of this video, but we're going to start straight away with a breakdown of this matchup, one of the bigger fights on the card this weekend, Whittaker versus Du Plessis, two top contenders in the middleweight division, very different top contenders though, I'm sure you have to agree with that. Dricus Du Plessis has kind of only just got to the top of the game right now. He beat Derek Brunson, who, let's face it, at this point is a little bit over the hill, but that didn't stop him beating a lot of contenders before fighting Dricus Du Plessis. But he was coming off that loss to Jared Cannonier. Dricus Du Plessis goes in there, beats him pretty impressively. Has some moments where people are saying, like, there's no way this guy beats the top contenders, where he looks sloppy and he looks tired. And we're also going to be talking about his nose surgery in today's video as well. But very different top contenders. A guy who's just got here, and a guy in Whittaker who's been basically the secondary champion of the division for a very long time now. The same thing with Holloway versus Volkanovski is going on with Whittaker versus Adesanya, and he's just sort of like the secondary champion of the division, and he's almost building his own championship reign just without the title on the line every time. Like, he's just getting this championship level legacy without ever being a champion. Well, he has been a champion before, but without being a champion whilst he's on this legacy haul, because he's beaten Cannonier, Darren Till, not as much of a great win anymore, let's be real, but he beat Cannonier, Darren Till, Kelvin Gastelum, Marvin Vettori, and now he's going for Dricus Du Plessis, and that's just after he's lost to Israel Adesanya and fought Israel Adesanya in the rematch, and that rematch is very important to this fight as well, because I think Whittaker won that rematch. And if at any point you can beat Israel Adesanya in a bit of a striking match, I know Whittaker, in my opinion, won that matchup because he got the takedown in round 2 and he got the back for a moment in round 4, and I thought that was enough to sway those rounds according to the criteria, but the judges on the night ignored the criteria and gave it to Israel Adesanya. But even in other rounds, like in round 5 of that fight, Whittaker was just outright outstriking Israel Adesanya. And that level of technique that you need to have to beat Adesanya whilst not being Alex Pereira sized and framed, Whittaker's a short dude. He's 5'11". He doesn't have the longest arms. He doesn't have crazy short arms, but he doesn't have the longest arms. I think Israel Adesanya had something like a 6-inch reach advantage over him in their fight, a much larger frame than him as well. And Whittaker was out jabbing Israel Adesanya in that rematch. The level of Whittaker is never given enough credit. Look what he does to Vettori. Absolutely schools him. However, this is where Dricus has his chance. Often, in the first round of these fights that Whittaker has, there are openings for his opponents, because Whittaker is a little bit of a guy who, you know, he likes to build into a fight. He gets into the second round. He starts feeling himself a little bit more. He starts going for the 1-2 head kick combo that he always goes for. But in that first round, there is going to be a chance for Dricus Du Plessis to land something, to try and get a takedown. I don't think he's going to be efficient in the grappling here against Whittaker. And I think if he tries to use his grappling against Whittaker offensively, I think it's only going to aid in him gassing out as the fight goes on. So I think he's going to try and catch Whittaker in the first round. And to be fair, I rewatched Robert Whittaker versus Marvin Vettori, and Vettori and Whittaker had a pretty close first round against each other, and that's Marvin Vettori. But Marvin Vettori was beating Cannonier really impressively in the first round. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. However, if you go back and watch that Vettori fight, although the narrative is, oh my god, he looked so amazing against Vettori, he absolutely dominated Vettori. He did, in rounds 2 and 3. Du Plessis is a round 1 fighter. You know what I mean? He does a lot of work in round 1 in nearly all of his fights. Against Derek Brunson, not so much, because Brunson was grappling with him and he spent a lot of time defensively on the ground, trying to get back up to his feet, trying to scramble on the takedowns as well. But other than that, we've seen in his fights, look at the onslaught he put on Darren Till in round 1 of their fight. 10-8 round in that one. Look at him against Marcus Perez. The Trevin Giles one, I believe, was in round 2. But either way, round 1 is going to be Dricus' chance round in this fight. And there is an opening maybe. If you go back and watch the Whittaker versus Vettori fight, it was a competitive round. I gave it to Whittaker, but you've got to admit there is some competitive moments there that maybe Dricus can take advantage of by being a little bit more athletically dominant than Marvin Vettori is, and a little bit more dynamic in what he does, because although Marvin Vettori is like, I guess you can say fundamentally sound. It's pretty easy to be fundamentally sound when you only throw 3 abilities. You know what I mean? I'm describing like a video game right now, but it's very easy for Vettori to be like fundamentally sound when he only throws a 1-2 and pretty much nothing else. Dricus is going to be throwing body kicks. He's going to be trying to chop at the legs of Whittaker. He's going to be trying to lunge in and throw like a 1-2 uppercut, right hook and just go after him. I think there's going to be more for Whittaker to worry about. So that's why I think that Du Plessis has a better chance than a Gastelum, than a Marvin Vettori in that division, because his finishing potential is so high. But I still think Whittaker schools him. He's just a different level of striker, and it's very, very obvious every single time he goes out there. I think it's going to be a decision. I don't see Whittaker finishing Du Plessis. I think Du Plessis is going to stay in there. But I can see Whittaker in the later rounds of this fight especially, offensively grappling with Dricus Du Plessis. If he ever has a moment in this 3-rounder where he makes it out the first round and he's already noticing Dricus Du Plessis start to breathe heavy like he was in the second round of the Darren Till fight, I can see Whittaker doing what he did to Vettori and mixing in a takedown. Because I think if he does that in round 2, it's going to secure his safety for the rest of that fight. I don't think he needs a ton of control time. I don't think he needs dominant ground and pound. I just think he needs to mix in something offensively with a takedown in this fight for Dricus to worry about. He's got to watch the guillotine, because Dricus has a really nasty guillotine and good submission game in his game. Really underrated submissions. A lot of people see him as a KO artist because of his early career in the UFC. I actually picked him to submit Darren Till because I knew he'd be a different level on the ground to Darren Till. He's got really nasty submission game. We even see him in fights, he'll go for a leg. You don't often see guys rolling for a leg in the middleweight division to try and get top position again and to try and evade a certain scramble and make the grappler think about something and then use it to escape. I think Du Plessis is dangerous, but if Whittaker can survive a first round, get a takedown in the second, start picking at Du Plessis. A lot of guys get caught by Du Plessis because they start thinking, oh, I've got him. You know what I mean? I've got him. Time to go for a finish. Time to go in and land these shots. We saw it on Trevin Giles. He was starting to get some momentum against Du Plessis, and you saw it on his face when he saw Du Plessis sort of covering up against a cage. He went, right, time for the finish. Boom, 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 combo. And then he gets slept by Dricus Du Plessis with a wicked shot over the top. Whittaker doesn't really go for finishes, and I think that's going to save him in this fight. I hate to say it in this way, but I'm going to say it in this way. I think Whittaker being so, at times, boring and not caring what the crowd think is going to save him. I'm not saying that he's boring. He's a very entertaining fighter to watch, but he doesn't make it his priority to have a fun fight. If he wants to win a decision that's really, really slow-paced and really, really dull for the crowd, he will do that to win. So I don't see him taking the risks that someone else would take against Dricus Du Plessis when they're getting all emotional and they're going for a finish. Derek Brunson is the prime example of this. He constantly just, every single fight I've seen of Derek Brunson, it's like he has the mindset of, oh, please don't let this go outside the first round. Please don't let me see a second round. That's Derek Brunson's mindset in pretty much every fight of his recent career. And even when he was first coming up in middleweight as well, he seemed to have that same mindset too. So I think this is going to be good for Whittaker. He's not going to chase a finish. He's going to stick Du Plessis up against the cage, teep him to the body, stomp on his leg, maybe shoot a reactionary takedown, because if you'll notice something about Dricus' game, when he throws his shots, he starts running with his shots. Not like Derek Brunson does, but he'll start sort of running as he comes in and start like a running exchange where he'll throw 3 big shots and he'll really get good extension on those shots as well. So some fighters don't see it coming and they start like stepping back once and then all of a sudden Du Plessis stepping in 2 more times with full range shots that are clipping him on the chin. We saw that a lot with Brad Tavares. Tavares was doing good when they were both stationary, but when Du Plessis started coming forward, Tavares would like expect 1 good shot from Du Plessis and then Du Plessis would throw another 2 and they'd catch Tavares at the end of the punches. So I think Whittaker's going to be good in that regard. He moves well on the outside. He moves around as well in a fight, side to side, which I think is going to help with that linear attack habit of Dricus Du Plessis. I think Whittaker's elusiveness is going to help him with that. I don't feel like I need to describe why I think Whittaker's going to win. You can look at the two of them, and you can see that Whittaker is the better technical fighter, better footwork, better cardio. It just seems like he's got the skills over Du Plessis in most parts of this fight, even on the ground, I would say. I don't see Du Plessis being able to take down Whittaker and ragdoll him. Whittaker's got some of the best defensive wrestling in the sport. In fact, I think he's like the guy that I would design to beat Khamzat Chimaev. If I had to design a guy to beat Khamzat Chimaev, I'd design Robert Whittaker with Marvin Vettori's chin, and Khamzat would literally have a 0% chance of winning that fight. 0% chance. But Du Plessis has got a shot. It would be crazy if he wins. It would set up a huge fight against Israel Adesanya as well. I just feel like Du Plessis does things very telegraphed. And if he does not get an early finish, which he couldn't find on Tavares, which he couldn't find on Trevin Giles, which he couldn't find on Brunson in that first round either. If he doesn't find that early first round finish on Whittaker, I think he's stuck in there with Whittaker. It's no longer a fight. It's like you're in here with Whittaker and Whittaker's going to do what he does. I do want to talk about the fact that Dricus has fixed his nose. I think it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal that he fixed his nose. And I think it is going to be a factor here. But I don't think it's going to be too much of a factor. I don't think it's going to be a huge, oh my God, now Dricus can go like 3 rounds really hard. It's not about like... Cardio's not really about, like, you get to a point with cardio. I'm not speaking on this as a place of, like, expertise. I'm not like a fucking athlete training every day and testing my body to its max capabilities. But a certain type of cardio, I know this much. It's not about, like, basic level cardio is how long can you go without getting tired? And then there's another level of cardio where how long can you go whilst you're tired? How long can you push being tired for? When you're reaching exhaustion, how long can you push past that? And I think Dricus has that ability regardless. So I think if he fixes his nose, he's still going to have that hustle in the back of his mind to push through getting tired. You know what I mean? So even if he does, maybe he'll just not be tired for a little bit longer. Maybe he'll last until the end of the second round before he starts to slow down. But I just don't see it being a huge difference where, oh my God, now he's an absolute monster and he's Merab Dvalishvili. You know what I mean? I think Whittaker's going to do very well. And one thing I like about Whittaker is everything he does is effective. And he often makes his opponent waste a lot of energy. They'll throw a bunch of shots. He won't be there for it. They'll go for a bunch of takedowns. He'll shut it down. And he'll do it with a level of technique where it's not wild and frantic. He'll just do it like the scrambles he was doing against Romero when he was like dropping his hips in Romero's body lock and turning a corner and sort of stepping up in a box step up to his feet again, fighting the hands. He was scrambling over to the cage as well. Everything is done very methodically, and it's not like a panic, oh my God, get me up, I've been taken down. So I think he's going to be a lot more composed, a lot more efficient in the later rounds. He beats Du Plessis, probably 30-27, maybe 30-26 with a dominant third round, but maybe Du Plessis has a moment in the first where he does give Whittaker some trouble, and that's what you're looking for if you're looking for Du Plessis to win. Let's talk about the title shot part of this, though. Strickland's going to come in and take the title shot. If Whittaker wins, which I think he will, that title shot is as good as Strickland's. Because if there's one thing I know, if Whittaker wins this fight, it's not going to be by first round finish. If it is, I'm wrong. But that's just not something I'm willing to predict. I'm not going to say, oh, I know who hasn't had a finish in however long and barely ever gets a finish in his career recently. He's going to get a first round finish over Du Plessis. I'm not going to pick that to happen, so I think that regardless if Whittaker wins or not, if he wins, regardless how he wins, it will be done by taking some damage. He'll be kicking Du Plessis' shins. He'll be landing kicks on Du Plessis' forearms. He'll be punching like the forehead of Du Plessis and catching Du Plessis on the elbow with certain shots. And it's just going to pick up a bunch of damage in the fight where I don't think he's going to be ready to turn around. Like, how many weeks afterwards? I think it's going to be like 8 weeks afterwards where he's expected to be on Australia. Like, you've got to consider the fact that he's probably going to be in America for at least the rest of that weekend. And then he's got to do a day flight back to Australia. Then he's going to need a couple of days to sort of like recuperate with the time zone and get over the jet lag. So by the time he gets back to training, he'll be having like a 7-week training camp for Israel Adesanya in Australia with it all on the line in front of everyone that he knows. I don't think he's going to risk that title shot being in an adverse position against Israel Adesanya. I don't think he's going to be like, I've got one chance to get this title back against Israel Adesanya. I'm going to risk it and do it on like not my best. I'm going to do this at 30% against Israel Adesanya in Australia in front of everyone I know. I think he's going to be like, I'm feeling a bit injured. I had a scrap with Du Plessis. Maybe he got dropped in the first round. Maybe he took some big shots and his nose swole up. We've seen Whittaker with some damage on his face before after fights. It's not like he gets out of there completely unscathed. So I think it's going to be a situation where Whittaker just sort of calls it off. Or Israel just says, I don't want to fight Whittaker again. Give me Sean Strickland, because Strickland will sell that fight. So I think Strickland should stay ready. I think Strickland is going to be sort of used as a backup opponent anyway. Even if Whittaker does win and get the title shot, or if Du Plessis wins and wants to take the title shot, the odds of the winner of that fight, Whittaker Du Plessis, getting injured by going straight back into another training camp without like rehabbing or healing up some injuries whatsoever, with no recovery, jumping straight back into another training camp, I think the odds of them getting injured in the middle of that training camp and pulling out are much higher than if they weren't doing a back-to-back training camp. So Strickland is going to be a standby replacement anyway, and I think he's going to get the title shot regardless. So the only way the winner of Whittaker Du Plessis is going to get a title shot, in my opinion, is if it's Du Plessis winning. Simple as that. I don't think they run back the Whittaker trilogy. It would be cool to see. I just don't see it happening. So my overall prediction is, for this whole weekend, Whittaker has a bit of danger in the first round against Du Plessis, starts to pick it up in the second, starts to go to the body on Du Plessis as well, because here's something that I want to mention as well. I shouldn't have waited this long to mention it in this video. Whittaker will actually go to the body. Middleweights typically don't go to the body. Paulo Costa does pretty well for a contender, but other contenders typically don't go to the body. You know what I mean? And on Du Plessis, he's fought a few guys where their weapons are not in any way trying to capitalize on Du Plessis' weakness. Trevin Giles was going for 1-1-2 and hooks around the guard. You're falling into Du Plessis' boxing game. You know what I mean? Then you go up against another opponent in Brad Tavares. He's not going to really be digging massive body shots. He's a boxer, keeps it to the head mostly, might throw a leg kick in there now and again. Maybe he'll throw a body kick in there now and again, who knows. Derek Brunson, he's going to charge forward head first, headhunt the entire way, try and grapple with you, but he's probably not going to be ripping to the body. One thing I expect from Whittaker here, if he can get in and out on Romero and tag those body shots up, and tally those body shots up on Romero. We even saw him dip into the body against Israel Adesanya in their rematch a few times. I think if he's able to do it against them without being finished, I think he'll take a few gambles in this fight. Step in, rip to the body, move back out again, teep to the body in general, start going to the body and legs early on. I think we're going to see the first opponent ever actively try and invest damage on Dricus Du Plessis, along with him getting tired in the fight, and I think that's going to be all the difference. Like and subscribe. Darren Till only throws straight left hands and rear elbows off the left hand. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Good. I don't know why I sneak dissed Darren Till at the end there, but fuck him. See you later. Goodbye. Whittaker wins. Strickland swoops in, takes the title shot. Yeah.